In this video, we're going to determine how to use our color sensor to detect either ambient light or reflected light around our robot. First, I need to select the color sensor like I have here. To get that, you just want to grab a weight block and then select color sensor from the selection menu. Then after selecting color sensor, we're going to go with the compare mode for now. And let's actually start with ambient light intensity. Now, whether you select ambient light or reflected light, you're going to be faced with two different parameters. Either the compare type, so less than, greater than, or equal to, and etc., and the threshold value. Now, the threshold value will change based on the room that you're in, the type of light that you're trying to detect, even the location in the room, all might change your threshold value. So the first thing we need to find out is what is our threshold. So like I said, we're working with ambient light for now. So we're going to open up our hardware monitor down in the right-hand corner. And we're going to select our color sensor. And we're going to make sure that we have ambient light detected. And what it's giving you is it's giving you a value based on the intensity of ambient light, so the light around the room. And right now, I have the lights off, so it's in a very dark room. If I were to turn on the lights here and turn on the light around the robot and around the sensor, you'll notice that that value climbs exponentially. So imagine that right now you are shining a flashlight at the light sensor, and as you can see, it's up towards 40 or so, which is very, very high compared to if I put the light away back down to say 1 or 2. Now that change is your threshold value. So for example, if we wanted to detect when the flashlight, I'm just going to click back now, when the flashlight is being turned on, and again, we saw anything from 30 to 50 when a flashlight was being shined at the sensor, then we would want to say anything greater than the value that it is when there's no flashlight. So right now, as you can see, there's no flashlight on the sensor. I'm getting a very, very low number, 1, 2, maybe 3. So you don't want to put a very specific number, because if it's too close to the actual value itself, you won't be able to detect change. So for example, I'm going to put, say, 10 as my threshold. And I'm going to say greater than 10. So in this scenario, if I'm detecting a value greater than 10, I must be shining the light onto my robot. Now let's talk about reflected light. So let's go back into our sensor here. And again, I'm going to choose color sensor, compare, but this time select reflected light intensity. And the idea is the same, but again, you need to figure out your threshold value. So let's change our hardware to reflected light. Right now we're getting a value of about 25. Now I'm going to place the robot sensor onto a white piece of paper right now. So right now it's over a white piece of paper. So we're getting a lot of reflected light. And now I'm going to place the robot over a black piece of tape. And as you can see, we're getting very, very little. So imagine that I wanted my robot to stop when it ran over this black tape line. Well, we went from 80 to 4, which is a huge range. You typically wouldn't see something like that if, say, you were on a tile floor. But if we said something like anytime it is less than, say, 20, I'm just picking a number somewhere in between my change. So we went from 80 to 4 or 5 or so. Then I could say something like motors stop. So this would actually react whenever the light value is less than 20 in this scenario. But again, you need to determine your thresholds in the actual environment you're going to be using your robot at, because those values will change based on what it is that you're doing.